I want you to hear a story about resilience, hope, community, creativity, and music. My name is Shairi, and you're listening to the second season of Sounds of the Sidewalk, a podcast created by people with lived experience of homelessness through Voices of Our City, a nonprofit in San Diego using the creative arts and music to empower people through connection and creative expression. Now, before you tune out at the word nonprofit or homelessness, I'd like to ask you a question. What does home mean to you? Maybe you're imagining a family member, a child or a partner, maybe a dining room table filled with warm food, maybe a garden or a pet climbing in your lap, movie nights or a place to take a too long shower without being nagged, or maybe being nagged for taking too long in the shower. Maybe you're imagining beds that need to be made, dishes to be done, floors to be swept, roofs to be patched. Or maybe you feel the idea of home, a refuge, safety from a storm. It can evoke feelings of peace, relaxation, nostalgia, and cherished memories. For those far from home, the word can evoke feelings of homesickness, sadness, and a yearning for familiar comforts. For some, home might be associated with negative experiences like abuse, neglect, or conflict. It can trigger feelings of fear, anxiety, and a desire to escape. For others, home represents a sense of community and shared history. It can evoke feelings of pride, belonging, and connection to a place and its people. Ultimately, the feelings associated with the home are deeply personal and unique. The overarching story shared in this podcast explores how the act of collective voice, whether through songs, storytelling, or shared experiences, can create a powerful sense of home and belonging within a community. This podcast is not about homelessness, but about our shared humanness and how we navigate life together. As a veteran and a runaway teen, I've experienced homelessness twice in my life. Community is what brought me home, both to myself and to the world. This season, as we interview choir members from Voices and community artists, I'd like to invite you to think about how we create home for ourselves and for each other. So let's dive in with our host, two incredible people I call friends, Naylenie, former beauty queen and ray of sunshine here at Voices, whose experience is too much to squeeze into an intro, and Enrique, whose story includes 22 years of incarceration and a host of creative endeavors, both musically and artistically. Both have been providing one-on-one support for choir members as they navigate San Diego's housing system. Both have lived lives that led so much to these conversations. Today, they'll be talking with Dr. P, a soprano and writer, and oh my goodness, just you wait. You're about to listen to The Sounds of Rebirth.
You're listening to
Sounds of the Sidewalk.
All right, welcome everybody to Sounds of the Sidewalk podcast. Today we have
your co-host Enrique and Naylenie, and we have a very special guest today with us, Miss Dr. P. Woo-hoo-hoo. Welcome. We want to hear a little bit about you, who you are. Tell us your name, where you from.
I'm Dr. Patricia Williams. I just got the Dr. P from a young man that passed away. So I wanted to honor him by keeping the Dr. P because he went on. And I said, I'm going to keep that nickname he gave me. I'm from Easton, Maryland. And the county is Talbot County. And you probably only know about it in history because that's where Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass were born.
Wow.
So I was born in some history. I'm the baby of 8. And I got here to California through a lot of stuff. So I'll share that later. But I am from Maryland. I used to live in Ohio, and I'm a retired school teacher of 30 years.
Wow.
Congrats.
That's awesome. 30 years of teaching children.
Yes, children and adults.
The future.
The future of today. So today our topic is a very special topic that we thought about just when we were thinking that we really wanted to interview you, which is the Sounds of Rebirth. And that name, it just came up because I think about your story and how far you've come, and I really feel like it resonates with you. And just, you are an example for a lot of people. And I really do applaud you. And you are so resilient. You're amazing. I really give you all the props. How do you feel that you connect with this word, rebirth? What does it mean to you?
Well, it means, as I look over my long life, that whatever I've given, it's coming back to me. And it's not, delayed. It's happening. And that's the part I think that Voices sees, is that part that's coming back after all the loss that I've had. It's now returning, restoration. And I'm joyful about it. It's like, wow, it's like finally come around to where you've given and now it's being returned back to you. But it's more. And that's what I'm excited about. That's where you see the joy is, wow, all this stuff I came through in 10 years. I've been here in San Diego 10 years. And I've been mostly transient for 10 years. In and out of apartment, living with people, living in my car for 10 straight years. After my 17-year-old son died in Ohio while I was teaching. He just passed away while I was getting my PhD. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what was going on. It was like my whole world just turned around. And I was like, oh my gosh, I lost my only son. And it was just drastic. And I came to California to see my second grandson become born. And I thought, wow, Devin left. Jalen's coming into the world. He's named after my son, Devin. And it brought me a little joy in the middle of the tragic, loss of him. So I just came I had a suitcase, so I'm just going to visit her and get away from Ohio and the teaching and see my new grandson being born. And as he was being born, the exact hour she went into labor, I get a call from the police department in Columbus, Ohio. Your house caught on fire.
Oh, my.
You can't live there anymore. So I'm stuck in San Diego with 2 suitcases and everything's gone. Mm-hmm. And I'm living with my daughter. I'm staying with my daughter temporarily, but she just got married. And her husband's like, I don't want mother-in-law here. This is strange. So I'm stuck. I'm stuck here in San Diego thinking, what? I don't know what's going on in the universe, why I'm here, and why I can't go back. And then they ended my teaching contract in Columbus, Ohio. So I had to start teaching here in San Diego as a substitute. And I was a regular teacher. So I went from a regular teacher to a substitute teacher. I was like...
And did this happen the same year?
It was 2014, 10 years ago. Exactly 10 years ago.
Wow. So it was really one thing after another.
One thing after the next. It was my son. Then it was the house. Squirrels had eaten the wires inside out. So it burnt from the inside out. And then the job all in 90 days in 2014. Boom, boom, boom. You got a new life. There's your new life. Whether you accept it or not, you're going to be reborn. You're going to have a new life. You're not going to have the same nothing anymore. Like, I'm like the Pez had. Pez, what is going on here? And I'm in San Diego with my daughter. She wasn't expecting me to stay forever. Neither was her husband. They're like, we didn't want her to be here forever, but it's like she's going to be here.
What was it that gave you strength and helped you get through those 90 days?
My upbringing, my grandfather. His name was George Washington Downs Sr. That's my granddad. And I was in high school. My granddad taught me the Bible. And he told me, he said, I don't care if you don't even have to go to church. As long as you read this Bible, you just need to read that book. And that's all. And that's what kept me was prayer and reading the Bible. And I've been in many, religious organizations, but my whole rebirth and losing everything, I'd rather just read the Bible. I love people that go to church or whatever, but I didn't want to be in organized religion. I was like, I'm not trying to go back into that after all this has happened. Because my house had caught on fire. And the very people in the church that I was attending in Ohio stole everything I had. They wrecked the place. Wow. And I didn't get to see it. Thank goodness I was over here. But I had one faithful friend over there that told me everything that was going on. Wow. So anything I owned over there was gone. It was like 2 cars, 5-bedroom, 1.5 bath house, gone in 90 days.
Kind of like Job.
Yeah, that's what someone here, a pastor here, said when he met me. It was like Job's situation going on, and I was like, maybe I'm Joe Bad. I don't know what it is, but Joe Bad, somebody. And so he was like, you know what? You're gonna get double. You're gonna get it back. You're gonna get it. You're gonna reap it back. And
That's
everything. Right. I've been in Columbus, Ohio for 20 years as a teacher. So I went from Maryland to Columbus, Ohio, and went to teaching and stuff. And like I said, I kept joy by singing, praying, and reading the Bible. Because I used to be in a lot of choirs back in the day, just singing, because my dad was a minister of music. When I was born, he was like playing piano. So I woke up to the piano and the organ every day. Every day I woke up to piano, mom singing, dad playing music. Every day.
Pops is like, give me an E flat.
Right. He knew by ear. He don't even know what those notes are. He can play any instrument you give him. He could play them by ear. They gave him some strange instrument. He played it. Like he can hear the music. So I have a little bit of that. But that's how the rebirth started. It was like you had to get rid of all the old. Now you got new.
And it all happened in 90 days.
It all
I'm
happened sitting here
very, very
with no
quickly.
card, and I had to get up. I went into Walmart and got a bike. I said, I am not doing this. I didn't have a car, and and my son-in-law was sharing his car, the car he had with me, and he didn't even like that. And so I went and got a bike. I said, I'm going to get a bike. And she said, no, you're not, Mom. I'm going to get a bike. So I got a bike at Walmart, and I'm riding. I'm riding the bike. And I figured out the bus system, and I would take the bike and put it on top of the bus and try to figure out where I am in San Diego.
And now can you navigate through San Diego?
Oh, yeah, I pretty can. I can do that. I got a truck now, but it was like a faith walk. I had to really live like by faith that I believed something better was coming. You know, I had to keep that hope. It's not going to be for long. You're going to have to keep going. You got to move forward. You got to keep going.
Yeah.
Because the hope is a thing that keeps you going. And even though we might not realize it, the music the singing, that really does a big impact. Because if you notice that one day you're like, I don't want to sing, and you just stop singing out of nowhere, that's when kind of losing faith a little bit, or a little bit of hope.
Well, I know that this is new to you all, but while I was with my daughter, I got put out in the street. Okay, they put me out 3 times, so I'm out in the street, and I'm living out in the street. Okay, I literally didn't have a car, I had a bike, and I had suitcases, and I said, okay, where am I gonna go? So friends would take me in, and just new friends I met, and I ended up, in the South Bay area, which I was living in up in Arrow Drive area when I first got.
That's my area, South Bay.
I was living there, and then I went down to South Bay area, and before I got to South Bay, I landed in Euclid in the Four Corners.
Okay, that's
with the Bloods and the Crips and the 5'9" Brims and all that. I was like, what is this? I'm wondering what's this faith girl doing here? Why am I in the middle of this?
Yeah.
And I had an independent living I lived in. And that was owned by the 5'9" Brim. They put me up places, but I don't even know who these people are. Who are these people? So they've been to tell me about this whole San Diego area, the drug life and all that. But while I'm doing all this, I'm writing still. I have my own publishing company while I was a teacher. So I was teaching and writing in the evening. Teaching and writing books in the evening.
How many books have you published?
I have 8 now.
Wow.
But I was doing that this is a side gig. It was like no money. You don't get money. You're just writing. And so I was doing it while I was teaching. And then when I lost my teaching job and house and everything, I still kept writing. But I didn't publish. So I hadn't published anything for years. So I published 2 other authors while I was out in the street. I'm up here on my phone typing. I can write books on my phone. I was writing books on my phone. I ain't have no computers, nothing. And we published it on the phone in the street.
Right. Are you going to publish anything Soon?
Just recently, I published a book in 2022.
Can you tell us a little bit about that book?
That book is called Dynamis Power, like dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Dynamis Power, but I didn't write it by myself, and it was the first book I had written since my son died. I had not written a book at all. And these two other friends of mine, I pulled them in. I said, listen, we're going to do a class on the 7 spirits of God, the spirit of the Lord, the spirit of wisdom, the spirit of understanding, the spirit of knowledge, the spirit of counsel, the spirit of might, power, strength, the spirit of understanding, and the fear of the Lord. These are 7 spirits of God, and they guide you all the way through your life. That's probably what happened to me. They guided me. So let's do a class. And we did a class at Malcolm X Library. I'm still living on the street.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still living. I'm living in my car at that point. And they said, hey, we're going to do it. So we did a class, 7-week class, and then we wrote a book off of the class together. And we were on Zoom because I didn't have where to live, so we had to do it on Zoom. And we're Zooming a book. So they're on Zoom, and I'm typing. And I finally got it. I finally got a laptop, and I'm typing the book. And we typed that book, and we did that book within 5 months. And I published it, copyright, everything, in at least 7.
So your car was your office,
My car
your home.
was it. When I got that car, that was it. I'm driving around the car. That I call her Black Girl. She's still running. Black Girl is still running. She's 2011 Ford Edge. She's still going. I had put money after money after money in keeping her going just so I could live in the car. But we wrote that book in 2022, and they didn't know I didn't even know what it was going to come out to be. They were talking to me on the Zoom, and I'm typing, what do you think about this part? What do you want to say? I just typed it in. Well, I think I should say, and then the other lady. So I'm typing them in the book as we're writing, and we don't know where we're going to put everything. We finally put it together.
Yeah.
We had it chapter by chapter by chapter.
That's awesome.
And the library adopted it, the city library, because I finally got a job after 10 years of substituting Uber car driving, Lyft, whatever little jobs I could finally get a decent job that has got some stability.
Right.
And they took that book after I got hired.
That's awesome.
And they
That's
allowed
amazing.
it to be, honored and everything. And that was in 2022 we wrote it. They honored it in 2024, February. That's in the middle when I joined the choir. I loved singing, but 3 people before I met you all here told me about Voices of Our City Choir while I was on the street. But they couldn't tell me where you were. They couldn't tell me what you actually do. The only thing they remember is that you were on AGT.
Yeah.
They said, you sing, though. You should join this choir. Your voice is too much not to join that choir. They are just phenomenal. And I said, but what kind of choir is it? They couldn't tell me nothing about voices. I got nothing, but just you need to join. Out of 3 different people who don't know each other. And one of them ended up being Phyllis's son.
Oh.
And I didn't know him. I met him at some event at school, at the Lincoln High School or something. But he kept talking about that choir. And then 2 other people had told me before him, but he was the final one. He's like, my mother's in there. I was like, your mom?
My mama up in there.
And I said, well, what kind of choir? You just need to look them up online. That's all he said. But they were on America's Got Talent. I said, okay, finally I did. Finally, it took that long for me to literally look up. And it was the best decision I had ever made. Because it was like Voices ignited the fire that was still a little smothering in me for singing from my dad and from my upbringing. But when I got here, it just went poof. And there's the fire.
Yeah.
I mean, the fire just started. It's like Voices started the fire.
And I personally, I remember when I first met you, and I saw your spark, and I was like, oh, she's a special one. Like, I can see her going far. And at the moment that I met you, you were in the process of getting things done.
Yeah, I had a lot of apartments, but they had
roadblocks, but you were still hopeful and you were still working towards it,
Yeah.
which is an important thing, that the hope was there
It was there.
and it never stopped. It just grew. It kept on going.
Yeah, but I can say that you all ignited it. And when I met Naylenie, I was like, that girl, it's something about her too. Because I didn't, I don't know what it was, but it just attracted me to talk to her because I felt comfortable with talking with her. And I was like, this is a different atmosphere here. It wasn't like some other organizations I was in. I was like, there's something special here that 3 people had to tell me to come, but they just couldn't explain it. They just kept saying, you got to come here. We can't explain it. Just believe you belong there.
Yeah.
You belong there. I was like, okay, finally I'm going to go. Because I looked on website and I said, homelessness? Sleeping in my car. Do they really help people that are homeless? But I want to sing. I always had a desire to sing. And I was sleeping in the car at Balboa parking area and safe parking. And I remember just thinking I was going to die in there. I was like, I'm going to die in this car. But I don't want to die. I don't want to die in this car. I don't want to stop breathing in the car and nobody knows I'm here. And so I heard a song in my spirit. And it was for me to be encouraged with hope. And I sang it when I first got here. You give me joy in the midst of it all. In the midst of it all. In the midst of it all. And that's the song that I walked in here singing. You give me love in the midst of it all. But I didn't know anybody in here. But I kind of wanted to know Phyllis because of her son. And I said, I don't know why. The song just came out as soon as I got in this building. Boom. I'm going to sing it again.
Boom.
I was singing in the Dollar Tree. I was singing in the Walmart. That's that fire. I got ignited by being with the group. And I wasn't afraid. I was shopping, walking to Dollar Tree singing. And it would change the atmosphere. And the cashiers would be like, oh my goodness, your voice, you made us happy. You made us happy. And I was like, wow. And I never got afraid to sing out loud anymore.
No, you're giving other people joy.
Yeah, they were like, hey, can you come in here? There's one particular Dollar Tree where I know it's in a bad area and they fight all the time. And it seemed like God was saying, now you go in here and sing. And I remember sleeping in my car and I've had to drive down there, go get something from the Dollar Tree and sing going in the door. And I would sing some gospel songs and stuff. Before I met the choir, I was just singing gospel songs out loud.
Yeah.
I was singing CeCe Winans songs. I love you, Lord.
You're setting the tone.
All of that.
And you were setting your intention for it to be
And they were
a
like,
safe
wow.
space.
But it was. After a while, they missed me being there. They were like, wow, you must have moved away or something because when you left, they stopped fighting and everything.
You brought in the peace because you really are a light. And I feel that you bring so much joy and happiness that I don't know if you realize it, but as soon as you walk into a room, like your smile just lights up the room. It really does, like your energy. And I've seen it from the moment that from you started coming, you had it, but I've seen it blossom. It started little by little with the steps that started happening.
Yeah.
As soon as things started falling into place, I just kept on seeing it getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And right now, I'm pretty sure you could see the light from space.
It's like, it's like, wow. And I'm excited for the journey because I was looking for things now that I am housed and voices help me get there. They help me. I mean, just with the hope that it was going to happen. Because I felt like if they didn't put me and help me in a hotel or something, I probably would have gave up. But when they said you can get in, I was like, I can get in a hotel. That kind of gave me hope that you're going to get an apartment. Because otherwise, I was like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
How is it navigating through the housing system in
that
San
system
Diego?
is something else. Let me tell you, I can now say it because I shared it with Steph already a little bit. And I shared with Dee Dee a little bit. But I have a book, my next book coming out, and it's called Out in Dim Streets.
On damn streets.
Out in dim streets, a homelessness pandemic. And I interviewed lots of people while I was out there. And they told me their stories. And I put it in the book, but not in a book where people just listen to the stories, but it's a book that brings accountability to the leaderships in these organizations that are supposed to help homeless people. And when they see it, I was glad I got housed before it comes out, because I was like, I got to get housed before this book comes out, because they're going to act up. They're going to just act up because it's the truth. The people are telling the truth of what happened to them in the system. There are numbers, and there's tests and assessments that they use to place people in housing. But they don't understand the scoring because they don't know what score they need to get, because they're not told their score.
To see how vulnerable they are.
They don't see the score. Like, I didn't see the score. I had to take it 4 times. But I have a lady, and she's in the book. I didn't tell her name or nothing, but I call her the Harriet Tubman of housing, because she's in a nonprofit, and she met me while I was living in my car, and she said, now this is what you need to do. And that's how I got into the program path to get to the housing situation. And she said, did you take that SPADAT thingy? I said, yeah. She said, what's your score? I said, they didn't tell me what. She said, they do that. They just zip you through and go to the next one. Let's find out. I don't know how she found out. She just did.
Probably
she had
clarity.
me take it again, and it wasn't right. So I took it 4 times to try to get the score, and I got the score for some reason. And that's when they took me in the program. I said, now we can help you get housing. Otherwise, you weren't going to help me get out? No.
Yeah, like navigating the housing system, and it's just very difficult, especially if you're in a vulnerable position.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, no one expects to be homeless. It's not like anybody wants to do that.
Right. It
and
happens.
so no one teaches you. And it's hard to get to those resources that will help you to get to that point where you can get housed. And a lot of the times, it's oversaturated, or, people don't have the time, or you don't know who to go to. They don't go to the right people. It's just very difficult.
And that's in the book. And it's in there the way that they told me the stories. Why are you out here? This is what happened to me. I said, you took it? So they're telling me, and it's happened to me, where they got apartments that they thought they were going to get placed in an apartment, say, no, you make this much money and you don't. Because they don't want to place people in brand new apartments with 30% AMI, 50% a certain number of them. So if you are under that, they're going to try to make you be 50%. That's what they did with me. That's how they got me in. They said, she only makes about 30%. We're going to put her at 50 because we got to fill these units. Fill these units that are at 50%. But she only make 30%. She's in the 30% range. So I don't know what they added to my income to make me get it, but they did. But I get it at a higher rate, though, not lower rent.
Prior from when we met you, how long would you say did it take to get to this point where now you're housed? Which,
wow.
Congrats, because it's such a big accomplishment.
Almost, let's see, 3.5 years. 3.5 years. And I put my name on the apartment I'm in 2.5 years ago. It hadn't been built. So I put my name on the interest list because I felt like I was qualified for that actual apartment for affordable housing. But it took 2.5 years.
Wow. That's a very, very, very long time, especially for someone who's actively working towards the goal.
And I had gotten a job and I was in the safe parking, but they knew I was in safe parking. And then safe parking is another issue. That's in the book as well.
It's just thinking about your journey, working all these years to getting, your housing secured while you're working, and you're doing the things you need to do. You're staying out of safe parking, and you're looking for what can I do. You're applying. You're looking for different places. But there always seems to be that blockage that I don't know why. Even towards the end, it just didn't make sense. It really didn't.
The numbers didn't even make sense.
It,
I shared them with her. I was like, do you see what they're doing?
but the amazing thing about all this is, the hope that I saw, the fire. Even going back to when we first told you about our bridge programming that we have, that you qualified because you were working, you were doing everything you needed to do. We were just waiting on the response to when you would be able to go in. And I feel that the moment that we started doing that, I just saw that fire spark back up. It really, I saw it go up in flames higher than when I first met you.
It was increased. It was like, wow, finally my faith just grew like bounds because I saw the love. I said, I know they have a program and people do things that they want to help the homeless and this is their program, whatever. But I just saw the spirit of love that, you cared enough to try to help. It wasn't like, oh, we got this program. You can go in it. That didn't work. Next one go. But you cared enough to listen to where we were to see if we were able to be qualified. And that was one. A lot of places don't. You're just a number. Nope. You didn't get, nope. And that it's a journey that I would never wish upon any of my grandchildren or whoever else because you don't know what's going to happen with the system. It's just the systemic stuff that, people don't see. It's not the lack of funding. I mean, there is a lot of money out there. It's the mismanagement. So there's a chapter in that book about 7 things that happen in that system of why people are still homeless. And I talk about each one of them. Wage disparities, the builders. The builders are a totally different thing. I met those builders who are competing with each other because they have to get the rents. So they don't really care about the homelessness. They care about the system and how the rents are going to get paid. That's about it.
Yeah.
A lot of flaws.
A lot of that stuff is going on.
A lot of flaws.
Yeah.
And you just got to take what they give you. You're like, oh, you're going to be back on the street? You might as well just take it.
Yeah.
And you can't afford to rent the next year, they're going to put you back out. You get put out. If you don't meet their qualifications the next year, you get put in the street again.
Yeah.
Requalification.
Instead of designing a program that would keep you in your home. Yeah, that's the way it is.
And even using the concept of rebirth, I feel that it can be applied to you in so many different ways because even with the situation you went through for 10 years, you even took the situation and birthed it into something new and to a product, into something that you're gonna you can hold in your hands and you can read because you're writing about your experiences and you took all of your experiences and are putting them into something good. So that in itself is rebirth because you're making use of everything you went through. It wasn't in vain. There's something good that's going to come out at the end.
That's that reaping.
Lifting the voices of others.
Because the young girl, even at the hornblower last night, was the reaping. It's like she came for wisdom. She kind of looked at me like, I know you can tell me something about life. And I said, what do you need to know? She wanted to know about dating and getting married and stuff. I said, I started laughing because in 2004, I wrote a book called Cellmate or Soulmate. Principles for Building a Godly Relationship, Discerning the Difference. She said, what? So that book's been out there for a while. She said, oh my gosh, can I ask you any questions? She said, pick my brain. Okay, get a couple minutes to pick my brain.
That's awesome.
But I want to help the next generation. I want to help youth, young people, anyone that needs some help with understanding something. understanding how things work, understanding how they can navigate. I guess it's like Harriet Tubman, how to navigate through this life. So I called the other lady Harriet Tubman, but it's like that. It's like I want to help somebody get to their journey too, not just mine.
Yeah.
So if I don't make it, I mean, how am I going to pull somebody else along so they can reap their benefits too?
Right.
Yeah, because through your journey, you're not just uplifting your own voice.
Right.
You're uplifting the voices of many other people just by the simple fact of the people you've met and you've interviewed and putting them in your book.
Yeah.
Or coming here and just talking about those kind of experiences, lifting up that voice. It's so important because I feel that not very often, I know that not very often these voices are amplified.
Yeah.
And they're very important as well here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even when I was a teacher, the main thing I wanted to preserve was my voice. Not just teaching the children and young adults, because that's what the last thing I had left. They had taken everything else away from teachers, but we wanted to keep our voice. We're like, what, can we talk? Can we, we want to be able to share.
Right.
And tell people something better is coming. Something, don't worry. And I can identify with children and young people. I'm like, you know what? I see in them something, I see what they're going to be sometimes as a teacher. And I would see this young man, and this young man was put in my classroom in 5th grade, and he was a discipline transfer. And he would get violent with certain people, but he wouldn't get violent with me. And so I had to go to the dentist one day and leave him there with the substitute. And he wrecked the entire school. The principal's office, he turned her desk upside down because I was absent. Because I was absent. And that's that I call it anointing. I call it a special gifting that's on my life, because he's not the only child. I was teaching for the first time in my life. Never, young teacher in my 20s, never had a classroom before. And they gave me this little guy named Brandon. And he was a discipline transfer. He'd stab somebody. So I'm like, okay, my classroom's atmosphere is we start everything new. Whenever we get new students in, we don't bring all their baggage into this room. I don't care if they were out there stabbing people or whatever. They coming in here, they're not. So that's a part of that, that flame. So when he came in, Brandon was a 5th grader that I first had. My first time ever teaching, first year classroom, 35 5th graders in one room. Probably wasn't no bigger than this. A little bit bigger than this. 35 5th graders, my first year of teaching. Brandon was just foster care everywhere. And he saw me as hope, and I didn't know it. I brought him into class, and we got him a job, and we put him into work. And I lost Brandon before my son even died. He died before my son. And I didn't know the impact that I had on his life until he passed. I'm sitting there. He's only been with me like 3 weeks. And I identify Brandon loves science. So anything science I can give to Brandon, that's going to make him happy. And that's the only thing I could relate to him. But he tried to get to school to get to me too early and got hit by a van. Because he was looking for me. He was running to me, Dr. P. I was like, he's running to school too early? Like, he left his house. School wasn't even open yet when it happened. We hadn't even I had got to school, but we were preparing our class when it happened. Because the lady didn't see him. He's so short. He died trying to come see me. And I lost it. I was the first year teacher. And the kids, and we had to go to a funeral my first year of teaching. I'm thinking, I'm not being a teacher anymore. Not after this. But the kids talked me into staying as a teacher. And I was Morris. Then, Miss Morris, you got to stay. You got to stay for Brandon's sake. So we made it to his funeral because I wasn't even trying to go, but they wanted me there.
Yeah.
And I said, the pastor made me stand up. And I don't know him either. He said, can I get the teacher to stand up? And he had teachers before me in other schools, and they stood up. He said, no disrespect. I don't mean you, or I want the one that had him last. And it was me. And I stood up, and he said, I don't know what you're doing in your classroom, because I used to run away from school. I didn't run to school. He said, what are you doing in that room that makes them want to come to you early?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he said to me. And so it's been on my life. I mean, I was born blind in one eye. I was born at 5 months instead of 9. So it's like, this is your destiny to help people and shine. You're supposed to bring something to them. You know, wherever you go, my dad used to say, wherever you go, when you have arrived, when you leave, they ought to be better. They
That's a
better
good
be
one.
better. That's the way he taught me. He said, you don't go in, wherever you go, your atmosphere, it's got to change. If it's not good, it's going to be good when you leave. That's the way he taught me to walk.
Right.
It's got to be better when you leave. I see the beauty in everything and everyone. I don't care how ugly they could be. And that's been a gift all my life. My mom said, oh, you done brought that broken bird home. You done brought that turtle. Where do you get him from? Well, he's sick, and I'm going to take care of him. And I was that one. But it's being used in a way where I want everyone to have better. I don't care where they come from. I don't care what they're into. I want them to have better. I always think that. I'm like, I want them to be better. I want them to have better. And if I can be a conduit for that, that's my life's journey then.
That's right.
Then I'm going to go around. Everywhere I go, I got to bring sunshine. Something. They're going to be happy when they leave, you know. That's what I feel. Because there was times when I wasn't happy. When my son died and all that, I wasn't really happy. But I had to find some happiness because of the grief and journey and this and that happened, that happened. I used to talk about it a lot, but it brought healing because people were like, oh, she's just so transparent. But they don't understand, as I talk about it, I got healed.
Yeah.
The more I held it in, I remember my dad having a heart attack because he would not talk to anybody about what's going on in his body. He wouldn't do, and he had a heart attack. He didn't die from it, but he had to change his whole life, reborn. He had to do everything differently. And I was in high school taking care of my dad and my granddad as a senior in high school. And I didn't go to university until later. That's why I got my degrees later, because I took care of my granddad and my dad as a teenager. And I wouldn't leave them until I knew they were okay. Then I went to college. I said, oh, they finally okay. I get to go to school.
And how was your educational career and journey?
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't want to be a teacher. So
You
the last
didn't.
thing I wanted to be was a teacher.
And it seems so natural for you. It seems like
would
such a natural
laugh when I
evolution.
finally figured out I was supposed to be a teacher. I was like, I ain't been no teacher. I was just fighting it for years. I think it took like maybe 5-10 years almost for me to be a teacher. I was working for the federal government. I thought I was going to be rich. I was going to make some money off of the government because they was always making money off of us. So I was going to turn the table. That's what my job was. I work for the government. So I worked for the comptroller of the Treasury in Annapolis, Maryland. I was working in government places, doing this, clerical, whatever, before I got my degrees. And this lady from church, I was in the church choir singing, just mass choirs, like 2,000 voice choirs. Little old me in the alto section. And I always sing alto until now. Now I sing soprano. Where'd that come from? Anyway, I was in there and I said, I do not want to be a teacher. This lady came to me and said, God told me you're supposed to be a teacher. I said, nuh-uh. You better go tell God. Nuh-uh. You better go tell God he ain't got it right this time. She said, I said, you didn't hear him write something. I'm not going to be a teacher. And she was a teacher, but she was retiring. And she was trying to push me forward, little birdie, because you're going to take our places. Because we leave and we retire, but you a
Passing
teacher.
the baton.
I said, no. I ain't never taught school before. She said, I saw you teaching Sunday school. I said, I know, but that's fun. Because I don't have nobody telling me what to do. I can teach whatever I want to teach in the Bible. She said, but I saw those kids with you in their Bible study class you were teaching. And I was in my 20s. I was like, I'm trying to go to no
It's a
secular
gift.
school. I'm not. I mean, I fought that thing, and every time I came to church and I had to sing in the choir, she stood next to me. Did you go down to the board yet? I said, no. You better go down there and be a substitute. Start with a substitute. And then she'd go back to singing in the soprano section. I'm in the alto, she in the soprano. I'm like, this lady's going to worry me.
And I can actually relate to you in that, because when I first started going to school, believe it or not, I thought I was going to work in the police.
I wanted to be a police officer too.
I thought I was going to be a detective in the police.
wanted to be one too. That's it. That's our connection.
I really thought that's what I was going to do. For years and years and years, I had always said it since I was like young. And the last year of college, it just clicked for me because not on accident, but kind of on accident, I started working for a nonprofit, and I worked doing outreach and going into prisons, helping out people for getting their Medi-Cal and stuff, getting everything situated before they would get out. Mm-hmm. Through that experience, I realized, no, like, I am so sorry. I cannot work in the police. I cannot arrest people. I cannot do this because it just didn't sit right with me. No. And I'm so happy that everything turned out the way it turned out because I love what I do. I love it every day. And I love meeting people like you. This is what makes me want to keep on going and keep on getting better every day because of people like you.
That lady, honestly, I tell you, I never forgot her name. Her name is Judy Bell. Judy would not leave me alone. Here she come. I said, oh, here she come down. Here she come. So she didn't leave me alone until I literally did go to become a substitute. Because at that time, the government job I was working in decides they're going to close it. You no longer work for the government. What are you going to do now? You need income. She said, the substitutes pay real quick. I might as well go. So I did. That's how I became a teacher, was starting as a substitute teacher in Ohio. And then I had to go back to school, change my bachelor's. My bachelor's is in accounting and business. And then I had to change it to a teaching degree. And then that's what happened. But she was bugging me every Sunday at this church I was attending. She's like, you're going to be a teacher. I know I'm not. And then I find out from my mother, she's 89, my mom is, years later, she didn't tell me right away. I said, Mom, I'm going into teaching now. She starts laughing. I said, why are you laughing? She said, because I named you after a teacher.
Oh, full circle.
Yeah, you're named after that teacher that lived up the street. She used to babysit you, and her name's Patricia. So I thought, if anything, I want my daughter to be a teacher like Miss Patricia is. She takes care of my baby girl really well, because I was a preemie, and she had to find somebody that could take care of a 5-pound baby.
Wow.
And not, I was only like 2 pounds at birth. 5 pounds when they got me out of the hospital. So Patricia, I said, now you're going to tell me that I was babysat by a teacher named Patricia? All these years I didn't know that. She starts laughing.
At what age did you find this out?
In my late 20s. I was like 29, 30, get ready to turn 30. I was 27, 28, 29. And I had to go into teaching then. So that's when I started teaching and loved it after a while because it was freedom. I felt the freedom walking through the buildings. I was like, oh, I get my own classroom. It's not much money, but this is mine. This is my classroom. I felt like the ownership. This is yours. You get to do what you want to do with this room.
What has teaching gifted you?
Well, I can speak now. Now, y'all know I'm a gab. I can talk to you individually and in a setting like this. But I had the fear of talking among crowds.
Right.
I wasn't a talker in front of people, like big crowds and stuff. Intimate, yeah, I would talk all day long. But to stand in front of a classroom of 30 people or 40 people or the board no, I had to learn that. Mm-hmm. And that's what teaching taught me, stand in front of those children, because they're children gonna tell you right out.
They will test you.
Yeah.
Well, really I didn't always do right though. as a teacher, because this one little girl, she was not nice. And they knew she wasn't nice to other kids. But I didn't. She got in my 5th grade class, and she was kind of a big girl, big African-American girl to be in 5th grade, but she thought she was mama. So she going to tell me what to do. It's like my 3rd year teaching. She said, you don't know how to teach. I can tell you how to teach. You don't know how to teach, Miss So-and-so. You the worst teacher I ever had. I could teach better than you. And she's going to stand up in front of my classroom and tell me I cannot teach. This 10-year-old. And I do not, I get inventions in my brain to do things. This is not what I tell teachers to do when I train teachers. I'm supposed to train teachers now, but I looked at her and the idea came, bing. What did she just say? She said she could teach better than you.
Yeah.
Okay, we can race switch roles. So I made her the teacher.
Prepping her for. I wonder if she became a teacher.
No, she didn't. She didn't. But she said, I didn't think she was going to take my offer. I was just kind of joking, thinking she would sit down and say, I ain't going to do that. Oh, no. Missy said, oh, I got it. I gave her the chalk. Back then, that's the old school days. We had chalk still. Okay. She went up there. She going to go. And I said, well, if we're switching roles, I'm going to be the student. I'm going to be a terrible student. So I was the worst student she could ever have. Okay? Because she's up there. Now she going to go up there and get her little talk on and tell everybody. So I'm back there throwing paper. I'm like, phew. I didn't do it. I'm acting just like a kid. Reverse psychology thing. That's what I did. Oh, she got madder. And we just watched her. And the kids started laughing. They was like, okay, I guess she can't teach either, can she? And so she got mad. She went and told her mother. And see, her mother was the reason why she was so, disrespectful to other teachers and stuff, because her mother brought her up to think that she can do whatever she wants and nothing's wrong. That's the way she was taught. You can speak your mind, and I don't care who it is. It could be the president of the United States. And she didn't have no respect for anybody. So she went and called her mom. And I had a wonderful principal, a male principal. He was so nice and kind. He didn't fire me or anything. So he said, let's try not to do that ever again.
Switching up things a little bit more, though. I know that currently you're working at a library, right?
Yeah.
How's that been?
It's been interesting. I love the job because it's only 20 hours a week. And I don't have to do lesson plans and all that. All I do is they come to the library for our program called the Do Your Homework at the Library, and we help them with their homework. We help them figure it out. They do it, and they go home.
Oh, nice.
That's it.
Which is nice.
For 3 hours. 3 hours, that's it. That's all they do.
What's the age group?
From age 5 to 14. K through 8.
Oh, okay.
K through 8. So we do that, and we do camps in the summer when the schools close.
Right.
So right now in the camp zone, so I have a camp coming up at one of the libraries called the Cosmic Explorers. We're doing planets.
Wow.
Planets and solar systems and stuff like that. And we create the camp ourselves. We write the curriculum, we do all of that, and we get the supplies, and we present it. And we might get a vendor from the city sometimes to help us out.
And that's pretty funny how the universe works, because it's still connecting you to your teaching roots.
Because I love children.
Even though you're in San Diego, whole different city, whole different situation. I even dare to say a whole different person.
Yep. Reborn.
You're still doing what you love.
Rebirth. I got a new attitude, new life, new job, new everything. It's just I look at things differently now. I look at them differently now that I've gone through this journey.
What would be wisdom that you could impart to listeners? Like, I see that you've been rejected, that you've been discriminated, that you've went through and you've maintained a positive attitude. What are words of wisdom that you can impart to others?
What I can say to people, first of all, be thankful you have breath in your body. You can breathe. be thankful for the little things, because in our country, so everybody wants everything big and, ooh, got to be rich. And be thankful and grateful for everything that you can. It could be minor to someone else, but make it major to you. Because after losing things are not what makes your life. It's the way you live it. So I'm now looking at life differently and being born over, saying, enjoy the journey. They were like, how are you going to enjoy the journey? We're homeless. Because I made that little car I was living in like it was an apartment. I mean, I literally act like I didn't live in my car and that I was living in an apartment. I tried not to let it overtake me. So don't let life overtake you.
Right.
I don't care what you're going through. It cannot swallow you up. You can't allow it to. You have to find ways to keep it from overtaking you, right, and who you really are.
And I relate totally with that, because I was in a cell for 22 years, and you wake up, you touch the ceiling with your hand, the side,
like my car, roof of my car,
and it can overtake you. There's two things that I've heard. One is hope. Like for me, one thing is never lose hope.
That's right.
Like for me, that was something I seen a light, even though it was far, and it took 22 years to get to that light. Took you 10, to get to where you're at right now, right? I never lost hope, because when you lose hope, everything becomes dark, and that's where you fall into depression. You know,
it overtakes
all
you.
Those things are like mental things that you can overcome. You can't let them overtake you. Like you said, I can't let this space overtake me.
That's right.
So for me, I really connect to that, because, I never lost hope, and I never let my situation drown me into, an abyss that I couldn't get out of. And that's where a lot of mental health crisis comes in, because instead of getting up with a positive attitude, you get up, drowning in this place that you don't want to, but you have the mental capability and power to overcome it. Mm-hmm. But if you let it overtake you, then you get buried, right? And this is where rebirth comes in.
Yeah.
So I connected with you in many parts. Even teaching is like a gift, because you have to be able to communicate and touch somebody to where they learn what you're communicating. Mm-hmm. It's a gift,
Yeah.
You have a beautiful gift. I've also taught for many years. When I was in prison, I taught a bunch of self-help groups, Bible studies, all kinds of things. And there's power in that, in teaching, because when people learn, you see that growth, you see that smile, you see that spark. But I love this interview. It was a beautiful interview, and I thank you for opening up your heart and sharing with us and with our listeners.
And thank you. Yeah, I mean,
thank you all.
Thank you for really showing us what rebirth means, because I feel you showed us countless times what rebirth really means and what it can do to you and how it can transform your life into something positive. It doesn't necessarily have to be negative rebirth. It can be positive, and you've shown us that. So I want to just say thank you for being so open with us and coming today.
Well, thank you all for having me. We can always cast down those negative words and thoughts. We have that authority, like he said.
Yeah. Corinthians.
Well, this has been everything for today. Thank you for all of our listeners. Hopefully we'll see you soon again.
Stay tuned for the next episode.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode. This conversation on rebirth has been such a meaningful exploration, and I hope it resonates with you, our listeners, as much as it did with us.
Absolutely. Whether it's about starting over, rediscovering yourself, or embracing new beginnings, the idea of rebirth is something we can all relate to in one way or another.
And as always, we'd love to hear from you. If today's episode sparked a thought, a memory, or even a new beginning of your own, let us know. You can connect with us on all social media platforms as Voices of Our City Choir.
It really helps us continue bringing these conversations to you.
Thank you for spending this time with us. Until next time, take care, and remember, every ending can be a chance for rebirth.